Hello everybody, welcome back. Honeyland Tutor wishing you a happy new year. Zub zub. We're going to go over some basic concepts today. We're going to start with hunting. We're going to use the simple view to at a glance identify some lands that are high quality, and then we're going to switch to the advanced view to investigate further to determine whether the land is right for us. Now, you're probably aware that the simple view has 5 levels of quality, red being the worst, green being the best. The simple view is a at-a-glance indicator for whether or not your bee will spend a long time before they return with a honeypot. We'll start off with a level 5 hunt quality, which is the highest, and we'll investigate what makes that a level 5 quality, and then we'll work our way down the spectrum. Alright, so we found one straight away. You can see that it's got all 5 bars. Let's see what it looks like from the advanced view. So in this case, it simply means that there are no other bees hunting, and this land happens to have a nice 1 hour and 5 minute timer before the honeypot is distributed. If you're familiar with the new Generation Z hunting mechanics, you would know that both Generations 1, 2, and 3 bees and Generation Z bees can return at the same time from the same land, each with a honeypot. This is a new change to the mechanics of the hunting mission, and it's important to leverage it if you happen to have both Generations 1, 2, and 3 bees as well as Generation Z bees. So we'll go ahead and send one of each type of bee in order to secure a standard honeypot as well as a Generation Z honeypot from this land. Given that it is of high quality, we should be able to, without issue, assuming that any bees do not come behind us and try to steal the honeypot from us. Instead, we'll look for a woodlands that is hunt quality 4 and attempt to snipe the honeypot from the bee that is currently hunting. So we found one. In this case, it's the exact same time setup. 15 minutes until the next honeypot is distributed. 105 minutes if we don't win that one is how long we'll have to wait. And as discussed, if this land is occupied by a Generations 1, 2, or 3 or Genesis bee, then our Generation Z bee will receive a honeypot based on the new mechanics that have recently been released. Okay, nice and easy. 3 bars should be 2 bees on the land. Indeed, that's the case. And Honeyland is telling us now that it is possible that we will have to wait 3 hours or more in order to get a honeypot. And while if you're hunting overnight, that's not the worst, it does add up as more and more bees are sent to this land. Now, as mentioned, in the case where there are 2 other bees hunting, if they're both Generations 1, 2, or 3 bees, we can send a Generation Z bee and it will be guaranteed to win that honeypot because of the change that was made dictating that Generations 1, 2, and 3 and Genesis bees fight for different honeypots than the Generation Z bees. Okay, so we found a level 2 quality here. This will mean one of a few things, right? Because once you get into 2 bars and 3 bars, there is not necessarily a static difference. It's going to be a combination of factors, including how many bees and what the maximum drop timer is. In this case, we could expect 2 bees to be on the land at the very minimum. And as you can see, that's the case. And there's a very high, relative to the previous lands we looked at, maximum drop timer. So assuming that our bee that we would potentially send doesn't win the first 2 honeypots, that would be 80 minutes plus 155 minutes before we have the land to ourselves. That's nearly 4 hours, and Honeyland is telling us that that's a long time. And there should be better lands than these lands to hunt on. Alright, so both of these 2 hunt quality lands are going to have several bees and high timers. And indeed, there's 3 bees and the same 155 minute max timer with an 80 minute next drop timer. Now, while this isn't the worst, for just 1 bee trying to get 1 honeypot, Honeyland is telling us that this is a long time potentially that you could be waiting. Now, this land has 3 bees and a much shorter timer, but it will likely still be quality level 2 because of the fact that there are 3 other bees already on this land. So as I mentioned, there is a bit of fluidity and dynamic results for the level 2 quality. Essentially, we as active hunters should not be sending bees to quality 2, probably not even quality 3, given that there are at this time many quality 4 and quality 5 lands on which to hunt. Now, this leads to the question, why would anybody send their bees to a land that is quality 1? And there's a number of reasons that explain this, but the one that makes the most sense is that they're a new player, they're the landowner, which is not the case. We know this land is not owned by anyone at the moment. But the most likely reason behind the fact that so many bees are hunting on a high timer land is that the players who sent their bees did so in the same 5-minute window. And where it may have been a 4 or 5 quality land, if 2 players sent 3 bees to a land that had 1 bee on it, it may have gone from a 4 or 5 quality land to a 1 quality land in the same 5-minute window that the game updates its data in. And that, as someone who is trying to use an active hunting style, is very damaging to our productivity. So it's important to remember that the best practice is to send 1 bee to a high quality land and not multiple bees at the same time, because that will essentially force your bees to compete with each other. So one of the things that we've attempted to pass along to the new hunter is that there's a combination of factors that goes into creating this indicator, and one hunting quality is pretty straightforward. It's telling you as a new hunter that it will take a long time potentially for your bee to return with a honeypot. A very long time potentially, depending on how many bees and how high the maximum timer is. So once you see that a 5 quality hunting land is identified, you should go into the advanced view in order to understand exactly what it means to you. It means that in 50 minutes, our bee will return with a honeypot. We like that. We like that a lot. We'll go ahead and send one bee there. Now, when we go back to the land, it's still a pretty good land to send bees to. And the reason for that is because the maximum timer is actually quite nice. And despite the fact that we already have one bee in position, it will be less than 3 hours before both bees come back if we were to send a second bee to this land. So what this hunt quality is telling us is that this land is an excellent land generally, given that it has this very short zone 4 drop time. And given that we found it when there were no other bees on it, that makes it one of the best possible lands to find in zone 4. Thus, the 5-bar hunt quality. Moving forward, we should understand that it's okay to send bees to hunt quality 4 lands. However, if we are an active hunting style player, we should be able to find lowest or very low drop times for a given zone, which 90 minutes is the lowest it can get in zone 4, and we should be able to camp out some of our bees there if that's the way that we want to play it. Alright, so these 3 bees in 4.5 hours will all have returned with honeypots. And that's what we want. We want to be guaranteed that our bees in the shortest period of time will return with the honeypots. Part of what I like to say is the most important factor for hunting is knowing the land, because the difference between a maximum drop time of 90 minutes and a maximum drop time of 105 minutes over the course of 4 or 5 hunts adds up very quickly. So each 15 minutes more that a land maximum drop time shows, that is an extra hour for every 4 bees that you send. So it's not an insignificant amount of time. You would much rather send 4 bees to this land with no other bees hunting on it at a 90-minute max timer with an 80-minute next drop timer than this land with a 105-minute maximum timer but a 35-minute next drop timer, when it's safe to assume that we're not going to win the honeypot from the existing bee. Thus, the 4 bees that we sent will have to wait the maximum drop time. That'll wrap up this brief introduction to the simple view for the hunting mission. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. We'll be coming straight back with a simple view for harvesting overview. If you have any questions, please join us in the Discord so that we can discuss in more detail. Have a good one.